occurred to me that instead of making this whole thing a segment, you can attach and detach and kind of slide in there. I could just remove this silver bit here. So I think that's what I'm going to do. Let's see. So let's just take this whole thing, Shift D to duplicate, GX to move it a bit up here. Let's get rid of these edge links so we can see things a bit better. And we can just get rid of this and this, and then we can seal this up. Let's get rid of that edge. And I want to make a face around these two. So let's get the middle points here, here, and make a face out of that with F. Face out of the, whoop, gotta get these. Face out of that with F. So now that's flat around, and we can literally just glue this guy on there. And we'll add some nubs to make that part easier, but yeah, we can get rid of this. And don't actually need this anymore, and we just need to put face up. Got some stragglers down here, delete those. Don't need that point. And let's get rid of half of these. And face on that, and then face on that. And to make this a little easier to set in, we can give it some nubs even. Let's check what those edge lengths are. 6. It's not a lot of room to work with, but I think we'll be all right. 3D cursor is in the center. You know, we can actually probably use these circles there. I'm going to take that, Shift D, GX, and then I'm going to snap them over here. I think that should fit in both of those, right? Shift D, drag it over here. Yeah, that should be just fine. And I wonder if I should do one on both sides, and one in the center, or just the two on the bottom. While we're here, I figured we might as well do both. So let's Shift D over here with 3D cursor as our pivot point. We'll right click, and then where's mirror vertices over the Y axis. And you can tell using these guys, the Y is going that way and the X is going that way, just in case you're wondering. And let's go ahead and Shift D again and drag this up here. I'm going to get the topmost point on this one to make that our active. And then we're going to make sure merge isn't on. And then we're going to snap it up here. So they're both on there. And then we're just going to move it up like this. Seems like a decent spot for it, as decent as any. Okay, so now we have those circles, which means we're going to have to redo those faces again. But that's not that big a deal. In fact, we could knife project. Maybe we'll do that instead of worrying about all of them. You know what, let's do that. And they won't be able to fit unless we make some changes, so let's see how wide these are first. 7.7. That should be pretty good, actually. Let's go to individual origins, and then we'll shrink these down to perfectly 7. And these will be our nubs. So we'll drag these out a little bit, just so it's in front of that bit. P, and then select, separate selection. And then we'll go into edit mode with this, control left click on those, and with this orientation, we'll mesh, knife project, make sure cut through's not on. Um, oh, this is still active. I forgot to separate this front piece into its own object. So we basically just cut a hole in the back of that, didn't we? Okay, Control Z to undo all of that. And let's go ahead and turn this into a separate object. Separate selection. Yeah, wait. We still gotta separate these into a selection too. Let's go X-ray. Make sure we got all these pieces. These separate selections, and now they should all be their own things. Good. Alright, let's go into edit mode and try that again. Control, come on, let me get it. Yeah. And let's go back here and try that again. Mesh, knife project, there we go. And let's take these and protrude them, say 5 millimeters. It's plenty. More than enough, I would think. And now we gotta size these up a little bit to make the other holes. So with individual origins still on, let's go up to 7.5. So maybe 7.55, just a tiny bit over, so they can still fit nice and snug inside. Alright, so get in edit mode on this one, then control, left click on that, mesh, knife project. And now with these, that was 5 millimeters, I think, so these will have to be 5.5. So we can get a nice fit. And these can actually be a little longer, just to make sure, just to make absolutely sure they fit flush. This faceplate here fits flush. This is actually 5, so that should be plenty. Doesn't really matter. A little less for printing. And those should just glue right on there, and we'll print it with this face on the print bed, so it's gonna print standing up. That way, this part no longer attached. It doesn't have to print a whole bunch of support going all the way around. Should be fine, and we'll just glue that in place. Like so. And we still have those rings that we got on there. Yeah, yeah. So I'll check back with any more corrections that need to be made, but I think that about does it. And one more thing I wanted to add and completely forgot was over here. I wanted to put a little dimple behind the trigger to hold the spring in place, because sometimes I've noticed the spring tends to get bent and not go cleanly into it. So to do that, I'm going to take uh, this edge loop here, which is the size for our spring. I'm going to Shift D and then P, separate selection, and then I'm going to hide this. And with that, we can put the dimple right in the back of here with edit, and then control. Okay, let's find out what we got there. Handle point 1, okay. With that, edit, let's go over here, control, left click, and then with the rear orientation, we'll go to mesh, knife project, and stick that in there. And we really don't need much. It's just going to be a little bit to kind of catch the spring. Let's E, right click, G, X. Just a little bit to catch that top of the spring so it doesn't try to slip out or anything. I think that this was the first time I'll be using this technique, so I don't know how well it'll work, but here's to hoping. A little addition I just thought of when I was getting these ready for print is that I saw this was pretty solid and was going to take like 12 hours to print and a fair amount of filament. Now, we don't need all this to be solid, so I was thinking we can hollow it out a bit to reduce the amount of filament we're using on it. So in order to do that, thinking we can get rid of these faces and get some hollowed shapes in here. Let's say, let's put our 3D cursor right at the face here. Oh, that's not gonna work. Right over here then. And we'll go 3D cursor as our pivot point, and I'm gonna hit Shift A. Whoops. Shift. Control. Why can't I think of this? Yeah, Shift A. I guess I was holding on to that vertex. No? Not entirely sure why that happened, but anyway, we're gonna produce a square, and I'm gonna get this to rotate 90 degrees so it's flush with not that face. Ugh. GX. Let's put it back here. And I'm gonna put this right over here, or we'll still have a decent amount of wall from here to here. That's 6 millimeters thick. I don't even think that's necessary. Let's check with the calipers, see how thick that's gonna be. Yeah, I think 6 millimeters is plenty of room. I think we'll just leave it as that. And let's see if we can get another 6 millimeters over here. Let's extrude G, Y. And let's extrude again. E, G, Y. Get over there. And we could scoot this over a little bit, but I think there's plenty of room on all sides, really. So maybe make this median, and we can extend this out a bit. Oh, the 0.3, which still seems like plenty since this isn't that big of a chunk. Shouldn't be that big a deal, I don't think. So what I'm going to do next is take this up here, and we can get rid of these measurements now. Let's just get rid of those vertices there. Now I'm thinking maybe we can take this all the way up here. It's got some room there. And we can extrude this. Oop, not duplicate. Extrude. GX. Right clicked and then GX. And then we can take it all the way up here without any issues, I don't think. Wait. I guess it needs to be a little higher. So we do have this gray lip to consider right down here. So let's go above that. And we're a little high now, so I'm going to just shrink this down just a bit. That. And I feel like we can go further. And then I'm going to angle it, kind of like we did with the cones to prevent the need to print support. Maybe I'll do my square trick. I don't think we're going to need to. Seems, let's get snap off. That seems adequate. That'll create some area that we don't need to print in, saving us a bit of filament there and time. And we'll mirror this in a moment. I'm thinking we can do similarly over here, like this. I don't think it'll mess with the structural integrity, because we'll still have bits snaking through. This one has that central point there. Might even make something like a square up here. So let's get this. Where's our active point? We'll center it up here. Let's make that roofy point our active, and we'll put this right in the center with G. Oh, let's get snap. G, Y, right in the center. And I think we can widen this considerably. So S for scale, and then Y to move along the Y axis. And we could pull it all the way out here. And then take this face and bring it down a bit so we're not running into that. Guess that part will be kind of solid there. Let's see if that's about a 45-degree angle. It might not be now that we scaled it out. Yeah, definitely not. So let's get these two parts of that roof shape, and then let's GX to bring it down. Try to make sure it's at a 45-degree angle or more, because most printers will be able to print that kind of overhang without the need for support. And then I think we'll just mirror this. Shift D to duplicate, and then our 3D cursor's down there. So let's use our 3D cursor, right click, mirror across the Y. Now we have some empty space that will hopefully save time and filament when printing these out without sacrificing too much in terms of structural integrity. There's more spaces we could make, but I'm just gonna experiment with what we got right here. So now we need to seal this back up. Let's see the best way to do that. Let's maybe get this point over here, and maybe these 2 points. And maybe this guy over here. Okay, that got all of this. Oh yeah. Those 2 points. Let's see. So now we're gonna deselect everything. Actually want this. We want these. We're gonna need to subdivide. Let's go ahead, since we got those, let's go ahead and turn that into a vertex group so we can click on them again. After we make these adjustments, let's subdivide this face. And let's get rid of that edge. And I don't think we'll need to make a face up there, so let's just get this point just to make sure our active's not touching anything weird. And we got that. And let's see how that, got a lot more that we need to deselect. Got circle select on with C, and I'm holding shift. And there we go. Let's try to get some of this. Those points of all this. Ah, deselecting that. Get that guy back. There we go. That's what we were looking for. And let's seal that up. Now we got some nice hollows in there. Alright, so I'm gonna finally try to print this. Can always make improvements, but let's see what happens. Alright, so after the prototype print, I did notice some issues I wanted to clean up. Everything was fitting pretty well, but just the way it was printing was not as satisfying as I'd hoped. Mostly because we're printing with this face down, and this face ends up with a lot of support, and it's not looking fantastic. So I would think the move here would be to print this entire section separately and then fit it into the main body. So that's the main thing I wanted to do here. So in edit mode, I think what we're going to need to do is make a cavity in the main body that can fit our cooling cell port, I guess we can call it. So in order to get that, first I think I'm gonna remove this entire thing. So we're gonna click all over it. Try to get every little bit. All these faces. All this, and I'm using C for circle select and just left clicking on everything. Let's get all these faces that we work so hard on. We don't want them going anywhere. All these. Sure we got all those. Mm. No, 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 no. Oh, those are actually probably an issue. So let's go ahead and make this into a vertex group. Assign, because I think I just found a location where the printer was having a little difficulty. This part was so small it's hard to tell, but I think this is some internal geometry that we can get rid of. These faces here, to clear that up. See, that's on the outside. And these should also be on the outside, so that should be good. Didn't mess things up too bad, but just gives us a nicer, cleaner model to work with. Alright, so let's get back to that. And I want to say that's everything. So I'm going to Shift D to pull all this out. Now we're going to need to make a sort of box back here, I think. So I'm going to use E to extend, extrude over here. Let's take off snap. G, Y. I'll pull this out. I'm not sure why it's taken so much. But, want it to be pretty close to this. GY. And we'll extend it maybe a millimeter or two beyond that because we don't want to dig too deep into the main body because we're just leaving a big gaping hole in there. So let's pull this up to 13.7. That's GY to 15.7. Then we use E again to go up. And we could probably just turn this into an edge, go up to global, hit plus, And then we can just take this extrude GY, and we won't be able to get exactly there. Turning off snap again, GY, and we'll just eyeball this. See if we can get as close as possible. Going into vertices mode, turning off edge links. So we can try to overlap that as closely as possible. And then we'll just snap this on here. Oop. Let's get X-ray, gather up, snaps off, and auto merge. Snap it on there again, and that should do that. So let's now close up this face. And with that, we should be able to print this separately. I wonder, I'd like to print it standing up, but I'm not sure if this angle will be conducive to that. We might end up printing it with this face down, perhaps, but we will see. And let's separate the selection with L, clicking on one of these vertices, hit L, and to select all, and P, and then separate selection, and we will call this the cell port, just to distinguish. Okay, so now for this one, in order for the cell port to actually fit in here, we're going to need to make a hole in here that's at least 0.5 millimeters wider than current. So I think just every angle will need to go out just a bit. So I'm going to start over here. Let's get back onto global. And I'm just going to extrude downward. Let's get our edge links back up. And get that close to 0.5, at least 0.5. It's close enough, I think. And you know what we could do? Instead of doing it this way, actually, maybe we could use that still. I'm just going to get rid of this entire thing. And then knife project a square onto the side of this. I think that will be a much more efficient manner by which to get this done did. Let's get rid of these, and then that should dislodge this, so I can hit L and select all of it, right clicking. Yeah. And then we'll Shift D to duplicate this guy. And then let's extrude this one up 0.5. It's pretty close. Shift D this one as well. And we'll snap it over here. And then we will extend these edges out 0.5, extrude, GY, another 0.5, here, pretty close, and one more 0.5 over here, close enough. All right, let's get rid of these. And then we can collect these vertices to make our window. I had a face with those vertices selected, and then we can get rid of these here. I wonder if it's going to go through. Honestly, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Select this one, P, separate selection. With that in edit mode, hit this orientation so it's dead on, knife project, cut through, and we can get rid of that with hide, and we should have that 0.5 square cut out here, which would do. So let's get rid of the inner square. And now we have to, uh-oh. Ah, that was unexpected. We got this to deal with. Um, what did we call it? Cell port. So we can't have that going all the way through. So we're going to have to create a sort of step. And that shouldn't be too hard. So let's first go inward to take some measurements. Here. Oh yeah. Let's turn off auto merge and extrude G, Y, and then we'll take it back 0.5 from there. It's going to be 4.78, I think. Yeah, close enough. Then let's extrude up here. It's 5. It keeps moving. 5.53, I believe it was. Let's go up to 6. I think that will do us. And then from there, trying to figure out how far this was sticking out. 15.7, right? But we need that step in there. So this needs to be 4.72, or 4.7, yeah, 4.7. So let's subdivide this to create that step. GY 4.77, all right. And then this is going to be 6.03. So I'm going to go ahead and extrude this guy upwards, 6.73. What is it? Oh, just 6.03. Pretty close, pretty close. And then we get rid of this face. Then we extrude out as before. Now this might potentially be in the way. So let's check up on that by fitting this guy back into its socket. Where okay, we'll use this one then. This one, because this one should connect over there. Good. And it's not going to interfere. That's good. It's not bumping into our support here. And it should rest right on top of there without issue. Oh no. But this is going inward, so it's going to need a little room in there to print that step. Otherwise, this is like just 1 pixel wide here. So I guess we're going to need to do something about that too. So this part needs to come out maybe 2 millimeters. Let's take this, and I'm gonna G, Y, and maybe instead of 4, it'll be GY. Instead of 4, it'll be 2.77. So let's take that out here. That's pretty close. That way we can still print some stuff in here. And this is part of that. So this should come out over here, snapping there, and then it needs to be at least 0.5 longer. Let's turn off snap now. 0.5 more. My brain fart here. It'd be 3.25. GY 3.25. Pretty close. Pretty close. And in order to create a 2 millimeter here, we need to raise this face 2 millimeters, so 6.4 to 8.4. Pretty close. Alright, so now let's snap this up. Turn off snap again. Snap on, snap it up there. Reduce by 0.5 millimeters. Should be 8, almost exactly. Shade above. It should be a little lower than higher, so we'll just try to get 8. That should do. Now for this recess, let's snap over here. Nope. Snap over here, and then add 0.5 millimeters. Oop. GY is 12.9. Then we'll go up, and let's snap it up here. And then we can go a little higher. It's going to be hard to figure out. Let's use this edge again. We'll extrude GY along there. And maybe we'll be able to see. Let's bring this guy up. And we can intercept GY as close as we can get. GY. I think that will be close enough, I hope. And we can turn that off, and we will go ahead and turn this into our active. No. Edge mode. Which one did we want? I think the top one, right? And then this one would snap right here. Let's merge those. Okay. So I think we have our recess and our separated cell now. Foreseeing any issues. See how wide this barrier is here. GY 1.9. That's not bad. It's kind of thin, but it shouldn't be an issue. So I think that's fine. Let's close up these faces here. I think you should be okay. Now we gotta close the U up. There, so now we can just glue into there. What is this? Period. Some discrepancy there. What's that from? It doesn't seem to be on this side. Oh, yeah, this is the inside. What? Why is this here? Poop. I can't remember why that's like that. This should be about 2 millimeters away from that. Dang, did I need that for something? I can't remember. It is quite early in the morning, and my brain doesn't work well at the best of times. Let's see, it's not currently connected to anything, and it looks like everything else is properly in place. So we will hope that is just a weird fragment and not something we needed. Okay, so hopefully this will be fine. Hopefully. And there was one other issue that I noticed in the barrel. I put it over here to make it easier to print. Why is it switched over like that, though? Let's set origin to geometry. Oh. Let's undo setting origin to geometry. This might make things a little easier. Individual origins. No, didn't do what I wanted. And the scale is also off for some reason. What the dingle happened there? Huh. Okay, well, the issue was that these slots kind of overlapped and were exposed over here on the props. So I'm thinking, and they honestly didn't save all that much time or filament. So maybe we'll either thin those out or eliminate them completely. You know what? I think we'll just eliminate. They did not serve adequately. And with the infill being fairly low, I usually go around 20%. It's not gonna be a huge savings in time or material, so this one should be fine. Yeah, I think those are the only real major problems. And even those were mostly cosmetic, but it's a costume prop. The whole thing is cosmetic. Um, this worries me a little bit that the scale is off, so I'm gonna let me check the hole sizes here. That should be a good measure for where the scale is. 3.7, that is accurate. So is this one too big? No. Even though they're on the same scale, they're different sizes. You know, whatever. Doesn't matter. We already got everything done. Alright, I'm going to give this another print see and make sure this is all lining up well. Also, one little other thing that I noticed, since I do put a screw through here to go into this hole here and support the barrel, it does, since the screw head is flat on the bottom, it does make a little gap here, so I was just thinking I can clean that up. Let me get my measurements here. So the screw head is about 7.9 millimeters wide. So in order to fix this the way I'd like, let's get this top, this bottom, and then we'll F3, cursor to active. Oh, let's go right in the center with the edge. Can you be going up? Okay, I'll just subdivide that. Cursor to active then. Okay. So now we're going to make a circle. And 7.9 divided by 2 because it's radius. And then we're going to rotate along the Y. I'll pull her out some. And since it's no longer mirrored, we're going to have to put this on both sides. So let's go into View and center our 3D cursor. That way, when we use it as our pivot point, we can duplicate this and then mirror the vertices along the Y. Oops. Mirror Y. That way we should have it on either side. And then from here, get into this orientation, hit P, separate selection, and then we'll knife project. Little details, but I like the little details. Let's get this. And this. And you know what? We can actually just get this whole thing. And we're going to extrude those faces back. Then we'll go into vertices mode, SY0 to flat. Get that didn't work the way I wanted. Let's go to maybe median points. No. Two elements. Oh, it's SX0 on this one. Yeah, flatten those out and push them back down just so the screw head isn't leaving a gap in between there. It has a nice flat surface to sit on. I think we knife projected all the way through. That's okay. That's okay. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all. And if we really wanted to, we can push this back a bit more. So this is a bit more flush. Not gonna worry about it being exactly. Okay, let's get snap off. GX. Exactly, but close. Just to clean that up a little more. And I think that's it for now. I might find some more issues later, but those are the things I wanted to take care of. Alright, back to printing. Little more issues I recall. First thing is the scale does indeed matter, even though this is 3.5, 3.7, it's printing as considerably smaller, or appearing on my slicer as considerably smaller. So to fix that, hit Control A, scale, and that now it's reduced to where it is based on its size. Let's get, for reference, let's get the main out here. So it is considerably smaller. So I'm going to hit A to select all. And then I'm going to use that line as my reference to scale this back up. It's not that big a deal. Scale this back up to 3.7. And that should put it back on the appropriate size for this piece. Now, one more issue with the barrel was these magnets are way too close together to attach to our flashlight bit here. So with this, we can see the holes for the magnets are a bit more separate. So I'm going to go in with edit mode for both of these, and all we need to do here is collect all these faces, and I guess that one too. And then we will collect, or at least make this one our active by holding shift and double clicking. and then we will off merge snap. See GX and snap that over here. Now it should be right over, well, actually no, that one isn't quite aligned. All right, so I think I'm gonna align this with this top one here, and then we'll move the other one back a little bit. So GX, moving the whole thing. These are separate parts. So with this center point as our active, we'll snap it to this center point with GX. Should get all those. And now with those in place, let's get this guy again. All these faces, go back into vertices, this center point as our active, and we'll snap it with GX onto this center point. And now those magnet holes should align just fine. It's not a big deal. One magnet can hold this plenty, but while we're here, we might as well make those corrections. And I think those are what I wanted to do for that. All right, we'll probably have some more, but we'll see. And yet another thing, I was noticing the trigger's not sliding as gracefully as I would like it to. So first off, this spring hole might be just a little thinner, like fractions of a millimeter thinner, and I'd like the spring to slide a little more easily in there. So I'm going to scale this up with S and then Shift X. So we just go along the Y and Z axes. And I'm going to say 0.2, tiny fractions, but I think the spring would slide a little easier in there. And knowing that, I think the handle could also, the spring hole for the handle could also use that increase. Because I was having a lot of trouble getting the spring in place just due to how deep in this is, how awkward the place. So widening that up shouldn't detrimentally affect it in any way. It'll just make it a little easier to slide in. So let's put this one at a 0.5 millimeter increase. And on top of that, I want to do that thing where I have the teardrop shape so we don't print any support in here. So I'm going to select all those points, invert, and then hide that trigger so it's not in the way. And let's hide the trigger itself again. And since it does print upside down, we'll go ahead and click one of these points, F3 cursor, Shift A, get us a plane, let's say 5 millimeters for this plane. Let's rotate along the y-axis 90 degrees. Is that 90 degrees? 90 degrees, and we'll form an X between these 2 points. And make sure auto merge is off. And any point below that needs to be pulled up. So this area needs to be pulled up. Oh gosh, you can't barely even see it, but over that line. So now it should be. And then let's take this over here, snap it there, and this definitely needs to be pulled over. Snap it here, these also, all of them will have to be. Make sure it's over. And then this one, the last one. And now we have that teardrop shape, so it shouldn't feel the need to print any support in there because most printers can do at least a 45-degree angle of overhang, and digging that support out will be a hassle, so that should be fine now. Let's get back to the trigger. So it was having some trouble sliding back and forth, not as smoothly as I would like. So, in order to fix this, I was thinking we can just bevel these points because the trigger is in the middle here and the pressure from the trigger is pushing it back. It tends to, let's set origin to geometry, do this, which causes this corner up here to dig into the top of the slot and possibly this one to dig into it. And there's a lot of digging going on, which is causing it to not operate as smoothly as I would like. So let's see. I don't know if this will help with that, but while we're here, let's try to bevel a little bit. It's interesting. Let's make a little more. Well, I don't like that it's going all the way back here. But if it's gonna go all the way back there like that, let's go ahead and get all these as well. Bevel. Ah, it's doing that thing. You know what we can do to hopefully fix that would be to add an edge there by subdividing. That way I won't cross that edge, hopefully. This, get this, 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 and not these. And let's bevel. So that's okay, that can do that. Let's see how this is looking. This is also okay, so I think the deciding factor is going to be down here because we don't have a ton of room. You know what? Because that's the way it is, I'm just going to bevel that one separately. That way we can get a nicer bevel on the other points. So let's bevel here. I gotta get rid of the edge links. Like so. That's not gonna do very much, but every little bit. Let's get these, not those. And let's bevel this edge as well. That's way too much. So there is a limit to how much we can do. On that side anyway. That being the case, oops, I don't need to bridge any loops. Undo. Let's not select that one. Let's do this one separately. About as far as we can go with that. And then let's bevel these as well. I think these will be the one that actually help. Excuse me. That actually helps with our operation. Hopefully. Hopefully. Alright. Back to printing. Another important add I had was for the site. Now, do the rail. Let's pull that up too. Oh, and we're also gonna need the barrel for this example. Where's the barrel? And it's over here. And it shrunk back down. Ah, dear. Okay, just for the hell of it, let's put it up here. Now, because of how this site is on this rail, if you try to pull it off this way, it bumps into this thing. If you try to pull it off this way, it bumps into that. So in order to fix this issue, we're just going to reduce these little holding bits a little. Let's just go into X-ray mode here. Grab these up. You know what? Let's just grab one of those as our active, and then we'll snap it. G, Y, let's put it back there. Y, back there. That way we should be able to just push it on, and really the magnet is what's going to hold it in place rather than its grip on this rail. Just due to the design of this particular item, we wouldn't be able to remove the sight otherwise, so small concession, but a needed one, I think. Alright, we're back again with some needed edits. So after I printed the site, after we reduced this area a little bit, this part broke, which means it's a bit too thin. So we're going to thicken that just a little bit by selecting all of these outer vertices. Right here, I got X-ray mode on, so I'm getting everything. I'll show you that in just a moment. So I got all these X-ray mode on, got all those. I'm gonna switch over my pivot to median point, and to thicken this up, I'm gonna scale it along the y-axis with SY, and we'll just give it some more walls because this was just too thin. And hopefully that will be enough, and we'll try to print that again. Also, there was something else. Oh yeah, the trigger. So even after altering and beveling as we did, I think we can do a little more. So I think an issue is it's scraping up here. Every time you pull the trigger, it kind of does this and scrapes the bottom or the top of the main portion like this, which we don't want because that's making it a little harder to pull the trigger. So, mm, so the first thing I'm going to do, we're going to have two changes, I think. First off, we're going to get rid of these vertices here. Let's get back in X-ray mode. So we get both sides of these vertices. We're just going to get rid of that. And then we're going to push this over a little bit with GX, GZ over here to open this up. And then we're going to put a face there. Gonna seal that up with F on both sides. And then we can bevel these a bit. I don't know if this is going to work. I'm just kind of hoping. Based on what I've seen so far, it could use the room. And then what we're going to do is move the spring for both the handle and the trigger down. It's okay where it is right now, but it doesn't feel very impactful since the resistance from the spring, let's Alt H to unhide that. Since the resistance from the spring is up here, this kind of moves listlessly a bit, and I'd like to tighten that up so there's a bit more tactile sensation there. So in order to do that, we might have to alter some of these faces. Because what I want to do is bring the spring down behind where our finger is going to be to pull the trigger. That way all the tension is right here, and I think it'll be a bit more satisfying to pull the trigger then. But right now we got these faces in the way, so let's go ahead and remove this vertice and this edge. And then we'll move these together so they're still at the same height. You know, GZ, put it closer to down here. And this will also make the spring so much easier to fit in here rather than trying to get into this area, because that was proving to be a bit of a challenge as well. And so we'll just go ahead and put the faces back on these. That should be good for that one. And let's get the handle back. Hide the trigger. Edit mode in here. And let's get a face, let's say here. And then we'll gather this. Get these edges. Oh boy. Okay, that's should be fine. I think. Oh no. Let's get rid of these. I just want half. What is this line? And let's try that again. F, and then F on the other side as well. Seal that up. That should do it. Alright, we'll get back to printing. Hopefully that's the last thing.
So after everything's printed and being painted, I wanted to add one last thing, and that's this lens. Now on the prototype, I'm planning to put some resin down here to give it a nice transparent, semi-transparent look, but I figure a lot of people aren't going to want to do that or mess around with resin because it can be a hassle. So we're going to go ahead and 3D print a lens because making one that isn't attached to everything else will make it a lot easier to paint. So you can just paint this whole face silver, and then you could just paint the lens itself blue, and then you could just slip it in. So that's what we're going to do right now. So with these vertices selected, with Alt left click, and let's get these as well, Alt left click, Shift D to duplicate, and then GZ to drag it down, grab, and then push down. And then we're going to hit P and then separate selection. So we're going to put that in its own little object, and let's hide this. And we'll take the barrel and we'll call this the lens. And the first thing we're going to need to do is shrink it by about 0.5 millimeters. So let's right click, set origin to geometry to get that point right in the middle so we can see exactly where it is. And we can collect these vertices with X-ray mode on, so we can both of them hit F to get that edge length. So now let's 0.5 from every direction. So let's go ahead and just make this 39 millimeters wide. So we're going to select everything with Alt left click and then S, and we're just going to shrink it down with S for scaling. And that's about where it needs to be. We can get rid of this edge now. And let's then extrude this lens, and let's make it maybe 3 millimeters. Should be plenty. And then we'll hit F to get a face in there, and then hit F on the top as well. And then let's bevel this. Should we bevel both sides? You're not gonna see it, but it might help fit it in a little better. Hmm. Should actually be fine. I just want to bevel this side. Say bevel this a little bit. Oop, some weirdness over here. Let's hit A and then Shift N to recalculate our normals. And then try that again. There we go. There we go. And I was looking at it in the game and it doesn't look like it does this, but I'm going to do this anyway because I think that'll just look a little better. And let's bevel this some more because I feel like it's kind of dome shaped. So we're going to scale this down a bit and then bevel some more, and we're going to increase that bevel. I think if I should bevel that too. Let's just keep it up here for now. We'll increase that a fair bit. And then let's also bevel this just a touch. So now we have this rounded domed lens, and we'll paint that blue. Let's go to materials. Then I already have a blue available. Let's go into edit mode, hit A to select all, and then we'll assign that blue to all the faces. And let's get rid of edge links. Now we can see it's nice. Alright, that's all I wanted to do for this one. Alright, so after printing the lens, I found we had a scaling issue. Seems that the barrel is a lot smaller than it's supposed to be compared to the handle, and thus our lens also came out kind of small, probably due to these keyframes that saved it at a point before we scaled it appropriately. So I'm going to get rid of these because I don't think we need them anymore. Make sure neither of them have it. And then we're going to use this hole that we know is the appropriate size that we're looking for. Let's figure out what the width of this is. Yeah, let's get edge links on. That is 3.7. So with these both selected, going back into object mode, selecting both of them, then back into edit mode, we'll get this sizing 3.7, which that is not the case. With those two selected and then this selected last, let's go ahead and Control A and then scale it up. Let's see if that, yeah, see, we can see that it's not 3.7 anymore since we scaled it up to this one. So let's take all of this. Oh, we got X-ray mode on, so we easily selected all of it. And let's hit S to scale outward until that is 3.7. Right there. And now it should be the appropriate size. Let's make sure. Rotating. And that should fit snugly over that. Yeah, it's looking about right there. Okay, so I'll Control Z, and now the lens should be the appropriate size as well. So I'll hide those. Oops. Just these. And go back to exporting our lens. Yeah, that should do it.
Hey guys, so I decided to make an assembly video for the LAS-7 Dagger rather than written instructions. We may do this going forward, we'll see how this one goes. So after printing and painting your parts, oh, and I already set all the magnets, you'll need 10 for this build, though if you don't want bits removable, you can always just glue everything together. First thing is setting the trigger spring, which is a simple compression spring 7 mm wide and about 20 long. This is set into a recess in the handle. Then you can slot in the trigger, leaning it forward as you place it so it doesn't dislodge the spring. Next, you can slide on the rear portion. You'll want to be gluing this as you go. I'm not gluing things together just yet. The side adjustment screw just slots into the hole. Then we can place our 1/8 inch thick steel rods. The top one is about 5 3/4 inch long and the bottom one is 4.5. These can then let the barrel fit with the rest. Again, I would glue all of these together. If your magnets are in place, you can set all the little removable bits and glue in the cooling cell port. Using some 2-inch long number 8-32 threaded screws, we can secure the assembly. These, with the steel rods, will hold the entire thing together, but glue will help keep the parts from wobbling and is again recommended. And that's it. Pretty simple build. Let me know if I forgot anything or anything needs further explanation. Otherwise, enjoy your new LAS-7 Dagger. The LAS-7 Dagger from Helldivers 2 is finally finished. Paired with my Eruptor, this little laser pistol became my most used sidearm after testing it on the Illuminate's mindless masses. I quickly came to find it made astonishingly quick work of light enemies across all factions and works particularly good against the bugs, so I decided to honor its service by making it into a prop. This one features a pullable trigger, removable magnetic light attachment, a removable cooling cell, and even a detachable red dot sight. I used resin for the barrel lens to give it that shine, but there's also a printable lens you can just paint and fit in. For those interested in modeling, I've prepared a how-to series for this prop that takes you step by step on how I modeled it in Blender. If you don't want to model, the STL files to print this prop as well as over 40 others are available to supporters of my Patreon. And if you don't want to go through all this modeling, I do have the STL files needed to print all of my 3D printable props available to supporters over on my Patreon. We currently have over 40 props available and are adding more all the time. This prop will also be made available once it's finished. So if you'd like to skip the modeling and gain access to an entire armory of 3D printable props, check out my Patreon, link in the description. It is only $5 a month and you gain access to the entire armory of over 40 props. Staying a member ensures you get access to everything new added to the armory immediately and of course, very much helps support the channel. Speaking of supporting, we have to show our gratitude to M. John Simon, a real hero of the channel, supporting at the hero tier. Become a hero to get yourself special mention in these very videos, and as always, like and subscribe to ensure you never miss out on the next video. Until then, I have been Ken with Kenjutsu Bring It to Life, and I am out.